At first glance, the Fool in Lord of the Mysteries and Odin from Norse mythology do not seem like the same kind of figure at all. One belongs to a modern Chinese fantasy world filled with pathways, hidden gods, and occult mystery. The other comes from one of the oldest mythologies in Europe, a god of wisdom, war, death, poetry, and sacrifice. So why do they sometimes feel strangely similar? Not in appearance, not in story, but in archetype. Because once you look past the surface, both the Fool and Odin start to tap into the same deeper mythic shape. The hidden seeker, the dangerous knower, the figure who grows more powerful not through brute strength, but by moving closer to truths ordinary people were never meant to hold. Now, to be clear, I am not saying the Fool is literally Odin. This is not a one-to-one mythology equation. The Fool is not just Odin wearing a new costume inside a Chinese fantasy novel. But that is not the point. The point is that both figures seem to resonate with the same kind of mythic energy, and once you notice that, the Fool starts to feel less like a simple title, and more like a truly mythic identity. The first similarity is obvious the moment you compare them to more straightforward heroic figures. Neither Odin nor the Fool feels defined by raw physical dominance. Odin is not Thor. He is not the most obvious symbol of brute force. His power comes from knowledge, sacrifice, hidden depth, and the ability to see beyond what others can see. And the Fool feels similar. Welcome to Eastern and Western Legends. Here, we explore together the most mysterious myths, legends, and epic stories from both East and West. In Lord of the Mysteries, that identity does not feel like the title of a warrior charging into battle. It feels like the title of someone who stands above the visible game because he understands more of it than anyone else. That is already very Odin-like, because the figure is powerful not simply because he can overpower the world with muscle, but because he understands a deeper layer of it. That kind of power feels colder, less heroic in the traditional sense, and much more unsettling. Then comes the second similarity, and this is where it gets much darker. For both Odin and the Fool, knowledge is never free. In Norse mythology, Odin is one of the clearest examples of a god who pays for wisdom. He sacrifices an eye for deeper sight. He hangs on the world tree to gain the runes. Knowledge is not something he politely collects. It costs him. It wounds him. It changes him. That matters because it reveals a certain archetype, the figure who seeks truth even when truth is dangerous. And in Lord of the Mysteries, that same emotional structure appears again and again. The deeper the secrets, the greater the danger. Knowledge is not simply empowering, it is corrosive. The more you understand, the more exposed you become. The more you rise, the more reality itself starts feeling unstable. That is why the Fool does not just feel clever, he feels like someone standing dangerously close to truths that would break normal people. And that is exactly why the comparison to Odin works. Because in both cases, knowledge is not just power, it is burden, it is risk, it is transformation. The third similarity is more subtle, but maybe even more important. Both figures carry a strong sense of hiddenness. Odin is one of the great wanderer gods. He is not always imagined as a king sitting safely on a throne. He moves through the world in disguise. He wanders, he watches, he tests. He does not always reveal who he really is, and that hiddenness becomes part of his authority. The Fool feels similar, not because the details are identical, but because the power of that identity also grows through concealment, distance, mystery, elevation. The sense that what you are looking at is not fully visible and never fully available. That matters more than people realize. Because some mythic figures feel strong when they are seen clearly, but others feel stronger when they are not. When part of them stays hidden, when their mystery itself becomes part of the power. That is where both Odin and the Fool start to feel less like ordinary characters and more like presences. The kind of figures who become larger precisely because you never get all of them at once. And then there is the deepest connection of all. Both feel like figures who know too much to remain ordinary. The more you move toward Odin, the less he feels like a simple god of stories for children. He becomes darker, older, more sacrificial, more tied to fate, death, secret knowledge, and things that cannot be reached without cost. The same thing happens with the Fool. The deeper that identity rises, the less humanly accessible it feels. That does not mean it loses all humanity, but it does mean it begins to move into a zone where ordinary categories no longer feel enough. It is no longer just a strong person. It becomes something more mythic than personal. A figure defined by mystery, by distance, by dangerous knowledge, by elevation beyond the ordinary human point of view. That is the heart of the Odin comparison. Not that the Fool and Odin tell the same story, but that both belong to a long mythic pattern. The hidden wisdom-bearing figure who approaches dangerous truth, pays for that truth, and becomes more powerful precisely by moving beyond what ordinary people can safely understand. Now this is also where we need to be careful, because the Fool is not just an Odin figure. He also carries the weight of tarot symbolism, occult mystery, hidden divinity, and the unique world-building logic of Lord of the Mysteries itself. And Odin, of course, belongs to a completely different mythological world, one shaped by Norse ideas of fate, war, sacrifice, kingship, death, and poetic wisdom. So the comparison should not become too rigid. The Fool is not Chinese Odin, at least not in any simple sense. But that does not make the comparison useless. It actually makes it more interesting. Because what we are seeing is not copy and paste mythology. We are seeing resonance, a similar archetype appearing through different symbolic languages. Odin expresses it through Norse myth. The Fool expresses it through modern fantasy, occult hierarchy, and hidden godhood. But both touch the same deeper pattern. The figure who walks close to dangerous truth. The figure whose knowledge separates him from ordinary people. The figure whose power feels greater because it is hidden. The figure who becomes mythic not by being the loudest, but by becoming the most difficult to fully comprehend. That is why the Fool feels so compelling. He is not just powerful, he feels archetypal. And that is why Odin is such a useful comparison. Not because it proves a direct line of influence, but because it helps us describe the kind of mythic gravity the Fool carries. So is the Fool and Lord of the Mysteries basically Odin? Not literally, but in the deeper language of myth, they do seem to touch the same ancient shape. The wandering knower, the hidden wisdom figure, the one who becomes greater by moving closer to truths that come with cost. And maybe that is the real reason the Fool does not feel like just another fantasy title. He feels older than that. He feels like something that belonged in myth long before he appeared in modern fiction. So what do you think? Does the Fool really feel Odin-like to you? Or is he something much stranger? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy mythology, gods, dark fantasy, hidden symbolism, and the deeper archetypes behind legendary figures, subscribe to the channel, because this is exactly the kind of story we explore here.